Hello. I figured I'd get right into the assignment by reading the first prompt, which is to define and describe the essential differences between individualistic and collectivistic cultures. So, in a nutshell, this really focuses on someone's identity. In individualistic cultures, it is important to people to be special, to be unique, to stand out. And personal success is a big deal to those cultures. An example of an individualistic culture could be the United States, where we celebrate our diversity, we celebrate our differences, and it's important to bring something new to the table when you join a job, to be that special friend that has your own unique subset of skills. Whereas a collectivistic culture, people gain their identity from the culture that they're in, the group that they're in. My wife's from Japan, which is a collectivistic culture. And in that culture, people are so proud to be part of a group. People will say, "Hi, I'm, Yoshitaka, and I am in the baseball club." They'll introduce themselves that way if they're meeting another high school student or another young person. And they really get their identity based on the group that they're in. Additionally, in these cultures, it's way more about the success of the group or culture that they're in than their own personal success. In fact, they define personal success as how much they're able to help that in group. In Japan, it's very, very cool. It's very upstanding to work hard for the company that you're in, to stay extra hours after work for your company's success. It shows that honor and those good character traits in that culture. Whereas in America, it's really awesome to start your own business, and a lot of people dream of being their own boss. But collectivistic cultures are different in the sense where they put the needs of the group, the needs of their culture, whether that's the government or their religion, they put those needs above their own personal needs and goals. So for the second prompt, it's to define and describe the essential differences between high and low context cultures. And high context cultures are kind of what they sound like. When communicating or receiving a communication, they use a high amount of context to interpret the meaning of the message. The book definition is people rely on context to understand meaning. This means they pay attention to nonverbal cues, they pay attention to facial expressions, tone of voice. And an example of this culture, I'm going to use Japan again because I lived there for a while. And in Japan, people generally, due to wanting to be polite, not wanting to break those social norms, they can't say no to someone. They don't want to say a flat out no or reject an offer that someone gives them. Instead, so they can be polite, they'll say something like, "Oh, I wish that I had time to attend that event, but sadly I won't be able to make it." Or, "Oh, maybe I can go, call me later in the week and I'll see if I have time." But in reality, when people say stuff like that, they're actually saying no. And a Japanese person speaking to another Japanese person could be invited to an event and say, "Oh, I would love to go. I'll see if I can find some room in my schedule, and I hope that I'll be able to make it." And the other person talking to them could think, "Oh, they won't make it." Whereas me as an American, I went to Japan as a Christian missionary. And when I was there at first, I would ask people if they were interested in maybe hearing a message about Christianity. And they'd tell me those maybes. They'd give me those, soft no's. But I, as an American, I couldn't interpret those messages early on. So I'd be excited and say, "Oh, sweet, they said maybe," And then when I would share a Christian message at church that day, none of the people that I invited actually would show up. And so learning those different social cues and facial expressions and tone of voice really taught me how to understand a message not solely based on the actual words and vocabulary that was used. And that's because I'm from a low context culture. America is an example of a low context culture, which is where people rely on the literal meaning of words to understand a message. So in America, if I invited someone to a Christian meeting, and they didn't want to go, they would just say, "Oh, sorry, I'm not interested," or "Sorry, I am already part of another religion." Very direct, very literal, and I wouldn't worry about any hidden meaning in their words. So that's the difference between a high context and low context culture. Next is to define and describe the essential differences between large and small power distance cultures. So this also is rather self-explanatory, but a large power distance culture simply means that there is a big power gap, a big difference in power between people in this culture. There might be people up at the top and people at the bottom. It's much more vertical. Whereas a small power distance culture, people are a lot more equal, people have a lot more say, there's a lot smaller of a difference in power. And this can apply to many things. This can apply to financial power. There can be rich people in one culture that has a large power distance, and there can be very, very poor people. There's a large power distance between those people. This can happen in religion. You can have a religion where there is, like the Catholic Church, they have the Pope, who is the foremost authority on religious matters. And someone who just goes to church every Sunday, a member of the Catholic Church, does not have nearly as much say in Catholic Church decisions as the Pope does. Whereas other religions, such as in Japan, I witnessed some Buddhist groups, it's a lot more even. You know, you have these monks and they all are at a monastery and they all have equal say in what goes on. They all have generally equal authority. So it can apply to so many things. It can apply to families. We already talked about in this class relationships between our parents and us and our siblings and the power distance there. So this can apply to many things, but just in short, a large power distance culture will have a big difference in power versus a small power distance culture. Next is to identify and analyze an event where I witnessed self-enhancement and one of Constantine, and I can't pronounce his last name correctly, Sedekaide's 3 communicative strategies. So self-enhancement, simply put, is our inherent desire to maintain a positive self-image of ourself. Because if we don't support ourselves, if we don't like ourselves, it's very hard for us to be motivated and to find lasting success or major success. So in order to do that, we use strategies such as positivity embracement, favorable construals, and self-affirming reflections. And an example that I want to share today is positivity embracement, which is where we seek interactions with those who are likely to provide positive feedback. Because when others are happy for us or when others compliment us, we feel good. A lot of people get their self-worth through things like that. And so the story that I have is a simple one, but when I was in middle school, I was at a fair and there was a really, really cute, tiny baby pig that I was able to hold and take a picture with. And I don't really like pigs. I think they're cute, but I don't necessarily, it's not my favorite animal. But my older sister, who was off at college at the time, loves pigs. It's her favorite animal ever. So I saw the pig. They were letting you take pictures. So I took a cute picture with this pig and I sent it to my sister. I have 3 sisters actually, but 2 of them, they're like me. They don't particularly love pigs. So when I took that picture, instead of sending it to my sisters who would just say, "Nice, you took a picture with a pig," I sent it to my sister who loves pigs, and she said, "Oh, that's so cute," and she was so happy to have that picture, so it made me feel happier about what I did. So that's just a very simple example of positivity embracement in my own life as part of self-enhancement. And finally, of Schwartz's 10 basic human values, the top 3 that I like are benevolence, which is the desire to help others and promote their well-being, because I think it's so important when we help others, we can find satisfaction in our lives and make meaningful connections. Additionally, I love universalism, which is the desire to understand and appreciate all cultures and people, because I'm part of a multicultural family and I loved the people when I was in Japan and learning about their culture. So I definitely think that it's important that we connect with those other cultures to have the best of both worlds. And finally, achievement, the desire to succeed and reach one's full potential. Because when I set goals, it makes me become a better person and it adds more meaning to my life. And honestly, you could lump that together with stimuli seeking, which is the desire for excitement and novelty, because I feel excitement when I achieve goals and it makes me happy. It really does get me to have that newness and freshness in my life. So those are my answers for this week's video assignment. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day.